Corday's first visit.
I have come to speak to Citizen Marat. I have an important message for him about the situation in Caen, my home, where his enemies are gathering.
We don't want any visitors. We want a bit of peace. If you've got something to say to Marat, put it in writing.
What I have to say cannot be said in writing. I want to stand in front of him and look at him. I want to see his body tremble and his forehead bubble with sweat. I want to thrust right between his ribs the dagger which I carry between my breasts. I shall take the dagger in both hands and push it through his flesh, and then I will hear what he's got to say to me.
Not yet, Corday. You have to come to his door 3 times.
Charlotte Corday came to our town, heard the people talking, saw the banners wave. Weariness had almost dragged her down. Weariness had dragged her down. Charlotte Corday had to be brave. She could never stay at comfortable hotels. Had to find a man with knives to sell. Had to find a man with knives. Charlotte Corday passed the pretty stores, perfumes and cosmetics, collars and wigs, unguents for curing syphilis sores, unguents for curing sores. She saw a dagger, its handle was right, walked into the cutlery seller's door. When she saw the dagger was bright. In her hand the dagger was bright. Then the man asked her, who is each for? It is common knowledge to each one of you. Charlotte smiled and paid him his 40 sous. Charlotte smiled and paid 40 sous.
Charlotte Corday walked along Paris, bursting sugar cups.
Charlotte walked down lanes of stone through the haze of perfume stalls. Charlotte smelled the dead skin green, heard the singing guillotine. Don't soil pretty little shoes. The gutters deep and red. Climb up, and take a ride with me.
The tumbrel driver said,
But she never said a word, never turned her head. Side of pretty little man, I only go one way. Climb up, take a ride with me.
there's no gold coach today.
But she never said a word, never turned her head. What kind of town is this? The sun can hardly pierce the haze. Not a haze made out of rain and fog, but steaming thick and hot like the mist in a slaughterhouse. Why what are they dragging through the streets? They carry stakes, but what's impaled on those stakes? Why do they call? What are they dancing for? will call me to join them.
Now it's happening and you can't stop it happening. The people used to suffer everything, now they take their revenge. You are watching that revenge and you don't remember that you drove the people to it. Now you protest, but it's too late to start crying over spilt blood. What's the blood of these aristocrats compared with the blood the people shed for you? Many of them had their throats slit by your gangs. Many of them died more slowly in your workshops. So what is this sacrifice compared with the sacrifices the people made to keep you fat? What are a few looted mansions compared with their looted lives? You don't care if the foreign armies with whom you're making secret deals march in and massacre the people? You hope the people will be wiped out so that you can flourish. And when they are wiped out, not a muscle will twitch in your puffy bourgeois faces, which are now all twisted up with anger and disgust.
Monsieur de Sade, we can't allow this. I really cannot call this an education. It doesn't make my patients any better. They're becoming overexcited. After all, we invited the public here to show them that our patients are not all social lepta.
We only show these people massacred because it indisputably occurred. Please, calmly watch these barbarous displays which could not happen nowadays. The men of that time, mostly now demised, were primitive. We are more civilized.
Up there, on the scaffold, you stand completely still and stare, farther than your executioners can see. That is how I will stand when it is all over.
Look at them, Marat. These men who once owned everything. See how they turn their defeat into victory. Now that their pleasures have been taken away, the guillotine saves them from endless boredom. Gaily they offer their heads as if for coronation. Is that not the pinnacle of perversion?
I read in your books, de Sade, in one of your immortal works, that the basis of all life is death.
Correct, Marat. But man has given a false importance to death. Every animal, plant, or man that dies adds to nature's compost heap, becomes the manure without which nothing could grow, nothing could be created. Death is simply part of the process. Every death, even the cruelest death, drowns in the total indifference of nature. Nature herself would watch unmoved if we destroyed the entire human race. I hate nature, this passionless spectator, this unbreakable iceberg face that can bear anything, that goads us to greater and greater acts. Haven't we always beaten down those weaker than ourselves? Haven't we torn at their throats with continuous villainy and lust? Haven't we experimented in our laboratories before applying the final solution? Let me remind you of the execution of Damiens after his unsuccessful attempt to assassinate Louis XV. Now cease. Remember how Damiens died? How gentle the guillotine is compared with his torture. It lasted 4 hours while the crowds goggled and Casanova in an upper window felt under the skirts of the ladies watching. His chest, arms, thighs, and calves were slit open. Molten lead was poured into each slit. Boiling oil they poured over him, burning tar, wax, sulfur. They burnt off his hands, tied ropes to his arms and legs, harnessed 4 horses to him, and beat them up. They pulled at him for an hour, but they'd never done it before, and he wouldn't come apart until they sawed through his shoulders and hips. So he lost the first arm, and then the second, and he watched what they did to him, and then turned to us and shouted so everyone could understand. And when they tore off the first leg, and then the second leg, he still lived, though his voice was getting weak. And in the end, he hung there, a bloody torso with a nodding head, just groaning and staring at the crucifix, which the father confessor was holding up to him. That was a festival with which today's festivals can't compete. Even our Inquisition gives us no pleasure nowadays. Although we've only just started, there's no passion in our post-revolutionary murders. Now, they are all official. We condemn to death without emotion, and there's no singular personal death to be had. Only an anonymous, cheapened death, which we could dole out to entire nations on a mathematical basis, until the time comes for all life to be extinguished.
Citizen Marquis, you may have fought for us last September when we dragged out of the jails the aristocrats who plotted against us. But you still talk like a grand seigneur, and what you call the indifference of nature is your own lack of compassion.
Compassion? Now, Marat, you are speaking like an aristocrat. Compassion is the property of the privileged classes. When the pitier lowers himself to give to a beggar,